Let's unpack all of this now with legal analyst Kabelo Siabi. Kabelo, thank you so much for joining us on the program. Now, the question on everyone's lips at the moment is why exactly Kelly Khumalo is not arrested or even charged with the accused. But my question to you is, do you think it was strategic for the NPA not to charge her and not to even call her as a witness in this case?
One must first understand how the prosecution goes about its work. Before anybody can be prosecuted, there is an evaluation by a member of the NPA, a prosecutor, of the evidence that is available to support that prosecution. Now, in this particular matter, if as far as what has been ventilated in court is concerned, it is that the only link would be these cell phone records that suggest that there was communication between the accused and Ms. Khumalo. But that body of evidence, even at first blush, is insufficient for a successful prosecution to be undertaken by the NPA.
We hear from Brigadier Bongani Kininda that there were strides that were made to obtain a warrant of arrest. Surely, at that point, the police at least might have thought, we have enough to get a warrant of arrest, but the NPA said no. What do you think could have been, a big missing part of this investigation? Surely some evidence has been put away in this particular matter, but do you think everything was in place for them to even go and apply for a warrant of arrest?
Again, with police, one must understand that the police investigate the allegation that a crime has been committed. Once they have completed their investigation, they present the material to the NPA, and a prosecutor goes through the material presented by the by the police in order to determine as to whether a prosecution should be undertaken or not. Now, it might be that the police, in their view, thought that they had sufficient material for a prosecution. Hence, they made an application for the issuing of a warrant. But when it went to the hands of the NPA, and it would also go further to serve before a judicial officer who must who must authorize the warrant, there will be further scrutiny of that body of evidence. And if the body of evidence does not make out a prima facie or on a surface of it a case against Ms. Khumalo, that warrant would not be issued.
So would you say then that at this particular point, there are no signs that Kelly Khumalo would be prosecuted based on the fact that previously they did not go ahead with signing that warrant of arrest?
Not at all. You must remember that the matter is still open to further investigation, and by that I mean that further evidence can be gathered. For instance, if during the course of this trial or after this trial, there is more direct evidence to link anybody with the commission of the offense, that person can still be prosecuted for this offense.
Explain to us what you mean by direct evidence. How would that come about in this trial? Would it come through, for example, an accused person taking the stand and implicating another person or even implicating Kelly Khumalo herself?
Precisely what I meant, Linda. In this particular case, you must remember that the direct evidence of who was involved in a conspiracy is normally between the persons that are involved within that conspiracy. Now, the most direct evidence that one can gather would be from a person who was present and participated when the conspiracy itself was put together. So in this particular case, probably the most direct evidence would be if one of the accused or more of the accused decided that they are going to testify.
Sure. So, I mean, looking at everything that has been presented by the state, right? The cell phone records, the affidavit of the investigating officer in the trial within a trial, even revealing things like messages between herself and her sister, but also pictures that were found in accused number three's phone that were similar to the ones that were found in, I think, a phone belonging to Kelly Khumalo. What kind of findings, if any, would the court make in such circumstances, given that in this particular case it's only dealing with the 5 accused persons?
You must remember that the evidence of the cell phone records or the communication that is alleged to have taken place between Ms. Khumalo and the accused, that at best can be what we call circumstantial evidence. But when the court deals with circumstantial evidence, that court needs to be persuaded from evaluating all the circumstantial evidence that there is only one inference that can be drawn from that circumstantial evidence. In this case, with the telephone communication, the picture of the money or whatever, that to me is not sufficient to lead to a single inference being drawn. And that is why, in my view, at what is known in public, there isn't sufficient material for a successful prosecution.
Mm-mm. Let's talk now about what the state alleges in this case, right? They're saying all the people that were in the house fell victim to this robbery. But at the same time, they're saying there's a mastermind behind all of this. But the victims in this particular robbery include Kelly Khumalo herself. So what does the court make? I mean, what should the court make of all of this? To me, as a layperson, it sounds quite confusing.
All right. With the prosecution of the 5 gentlemen that are standing trial, one must understand that the allegation would be that they had formed a common purpose or were acting in concert with each other, that part of the group went with firearms into this property, into the house, and they pointed the firearms at people demanding cell phones. So whether there was an arrangement or not, those who were in the house who were not part of that arrangement would still be victims of a robbery. And obviously, one cannot consent lawfully to being assaulted by being shot. Therefore, the offense of murder would still stand against those who perpetrated it, notwithstanding that the mastermind has not yet been prosecuted. As I said earlier, the mastermind can still be prosecuted at a later stage.
The second docket, lists Kelly Khumalo and all those who were in the house as suspects. So the state rather says it will only make a determination on that docket at the end of this case. How possible is it that the state may want to prosecute her in this particular docket at a later stage, as you put it?
With regard to this second docket, one must remember that at the heart of it is that there were no intruders, that the killing of Mr. Meyiwa happened during a scuffle between people who were in the house. Clearly, if the prosecution that is underway of the 5 persons who are now still in trial fails, because it is found that the evidence against them does not demonstrate that there was intruders, that there was no robbery that took place. Clearly, in that instance, the NPA would be justified to go back and look at the other scenario where with the scenario that is in the second docket. That's why the NPA said they will take a decision once the present trial is finalized.
And lastly, what recourse does she have? I mean, she's a public figure, and her brand certainly taking a knock with all these allegations that are being made against her. At this point, because she's a victim in that particular robbery, the state, one might say, is representing her. But what recourse does she have in terms of what it is basically that she can do?
Look, at this stage, you must remember she has not been charged with any offense. And that the law says that she is to be presumed innocent until the contrary is proven. So for all intents and purposes at this stage, everybody is supposed to accept it on that basis that she is to be presumed innocent until the contrary is proven. The allegations that have been or that have arisen are allegations which need to be further substantiated and proven in court before any fingers could be pointed in her direction.
All right, that was legal analyst Kabelo Siabi helping us place the information linking Kelly Khumalo to the murder of Senzo Meyiwa in this matter. Thank you very much for your time. Also quite important to once again point out that Kelly is not on trial and the court is only dealing with charges brought against the 5 men in the dock. The matter will resume tomorrow after a week's break to allow the state to furnish all the outstanding documents to the defense and for the defense to peruse the documents and take instructions from their client. We will be back with a wrap of the upcoming week's proceedings on Sunday, but don't forget to follow court proceedings here on Newzroom Afrika DStv channel 405. Until then, bye-bye.